We go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to America Left, Right, and Center. I am Shannon Epstein alongside,
Vanessa Simon, guys.
and we are coming to you live on a historic night in which Joe Biden has officially been called the president-elect of the United States of America. I'm very proud of that as a Democrat, but I'm also very proud of that as an American. There are a lot of historical things, that come with this, with the vote count being like 74 million for Joe Biden and 70 million for Donald Trump, and obviously Kamala Harris, the first female vice president who is black, who is also South Asian. Um, let's not overlook those things. It is just an amazing night to be an American overall, because I feel like we're restoring some balance of our nation. And with that being said, I have a lot of feelings, and I just really have a lot to say on the matter, but I'm going to give it to you, Vanessa, to tell me how you're feeling on this historic night.
I couldn't agree with Shannon more. I mean, being a Republican tonight was about, or today in general, was just about restoring that balance in the country. Like, it just feels good. And I think Van Jones on CNN really captured what the true sentiment felt like. Because for me, I was brought to tears when the announcement was made. Because for me, today's announcement, the Biden prevailing was really something that was like good prevailing over evil, intellect prevailing over ignorance. It symbolized a myriad of things. And I really, really hope, and it feels like we're going to get back to a space where we can come together at the table, choose to agree to disagree, lead with deference, be pragmatic. We had gotten so far away from a sense of pragmatism when we're talking about decision making, discussing anything of the well-being for America. It became so trivial. It was, laced with falsehoods. Like, it was really becoming a nation that I could not grasp. And I think when the announcement was made, everybody took a deep breath and exhaled. Like, it was just it was like a sigh of relief. Because it's like, oh my gosh, like, okay, like we were literally, it felt as though our democracy was slipping away from us. And it is our duty as the greatest country in this world to continue to lead by example. And it was critical that this election turned out that the way that it did, because it needed to symbolize that we are a true democracy. And while the world is watching and criticizing us and seeing that we have this leader that's just so divisive, and we've spent 4 years with him, and everybody has their eyes on this moment, for it to turn out the way that it did, we had to allow this moment to continue to show the world that we are who we are because we're a democracy. And that's what I'm on that.
Democracy is the most important thing. That is something that a true Democrat and a true Republican, 9 million times out of 10, will always agree on. That democracy is important, and that we must always stand against fascism. And that is what Trump was proposing. That is the next step, is that he was going to completely try to take control and be the end all be all. And we could not let that happen. I'm sorry. And that is what the Lincoln Project said as well. They're like, if Bernie Sanders was the nominee, they would have supported him. Why? They could disagree on a million things, and they would disagree on a million things. But the one thing that the Lincoln Project and Bernie Sanders had in common was that they agree that democracy is fundamental. So I'm just glad that this night worked out. And I feel like when you said a lot of people breathed the sigh of relief, I feel like I was the only one that was like, well, I kind of knew this was going to happen, but like election night fooled me. Like November 3rd,
Election night
Tuesday,
didn't fool me.
it
I'll tell you,
scared me. It
if I
scared me a
may,
little bit,
if
you
I
know?
may interject right quick, Shannon, maybe because
Sure.
in the circles that I'm in, being a Republican, a proud Republican, it's just like there were far too many people, whether they even claimed Republican or not, that were for Trump because
Hmm.
of what Biden and Kamala stood for, because of what the Democratic Party has evolved into. I had, as you saw, the percentages went up to 20% amongst Black men who are now in favor of Trump this time around. And then you saw the numbers go up amongst white females. Like, he was gaining traction. For me, it truly came down to a hope and a prayer that, for me, being a person that's faithful, I was like, dude, I'm hoping God comes through on this one, because
Yeah.
only what's right. For me, it came down, yes, it also was about us on the global frontier leading the pack, but it was also raising our children of tomorrow and setting that example, because it challenged all of our fundamental values of the golden rule, right? Treating others how you want to be treated, right? Show me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. Like, every one of those fundamental things that our parents have raised us with: respect others, it's always great to be kind, like everything. It was not on the forefront of Trump at all, of anything he stood for. He was bullying. He had 22 women come forward and said he's sexually assaulted. He had his hand in so many dirty pots. And it's just like, our nation was truly like globally, as they said,
But
we like a reality show. Like, he totally tore into our pride on this earth. Like, I'm sorry.
no, I want to support what you're saying. Absolutely. 1000% I agree with you. I just don't understand, though, with all that being said, with him being an impeached president, how does he still get 70 million votes? And I think I know the answer to it. The answer is what Andrew Yang has said already, which is, what has both parties done for the working class? What have we done, either Democrat or Republican, for average people? Because there's that 1% we all heard about, we all keep talking about, but what about the 99%? What about the whole of the country, for God's sake? It's like, I think a lot of them vote for Trump as a giant fu to the establishment, and
That's without a doubt. Unfortunately, like, Shannon, it's not, there's no one answer. And I know that for a fact, because I myself seesawed every single day leading up to election, because there were just certain things that I just didn't agree with, whether it was with the Democrats in general or the Biden Kamala ticket. I was just like, I had to look myself in the mirror and be like, when it boils down to it, when I face God, he's not going to care about the few F-bombs that I tend to drop. He's going to ask me who I voted for this election, because it truly was a question of, like, what's good versus evil. Like, that's just it. Like, I had to step aside and be like, what's the best thing that would be, just so that we can be in a space of innovation, conversation, respect, definitely.
right.
Like, we just needed to be in that platform. And unfortunately, whether people want to challenge this and say, oh, fake news, blah, 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 look at how the media painted him. No, he painted himself. And honestly, someone that I used to support Trump up until February of this year, and I'll say that, until I had to take a step back. And one, I thought he had a cakewalk to reelection. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I
In
mean, this pandemic was a
February,
gift, and he
it
chose
was the
he
pandemic.
chose it as a curse.
It was the pandemic into the social issues. This man continued to have foot and mouth situations on a public forum that I really felt like swung that pendulum away from him. Like, he did this to himself, ultimately. In my opinion, that's how I feel. And it was just like, that's what caused me, after all that time from 2016 to February of 2020, where I was like, nope, this is a leader that does not represent what I stand for as a person or an American.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, he called Ukraine to get dirt on Joe Biden. I mean, like, what does that say about a sitting president? You know what I mean? This is a fact. These things happened. And, you know, it just speaks to the volume of us on an international stage that, like, what is happening? You know what I mean? What is happening anymore? Like, we need to kind of return to a fact that, like, if you're going to beat your opponent on policy, beat your opponent on truth. Don't beat your opponent with dirt and, like, and cheap tactics and things like that. And I'm just so glad that this Trumpian nightmare for the second is over. But tomorrow is another day, and Trump has still not yet conceded this election. So who knows what kind of crazy shit he has up his sleeve and he's going to come out with next.
No,
You know
absolutely.
what I mean? This is very unbecoming of a sitting U.S. president. And it's our duty as Americans to make sure that there is a peaceful transition of power no matter what. I'm just very concerned about his supporters that are militiamen, you know what I mean? And people with
You and
guns,
everyone else,
you
Shannon.
know?
I can't begin to tell you that as a woman of color, I mean, I'm a woman of color who's a Republican, and I have to admit, like, me being in my clubs and hanging out, like, I've never been in a situation where I felt uncomfortable within those circles. But me as Vanessa going shopping in an environment that's unknown to me, yes, have I felt like some tension when someone drives by in a pickup truck with Trump Biden, not knowing that I have a Trump Pence like flag, not knowing that I myself have my Trump Pence card in my wallet, but they just see this color of my skin and just assume that, like, I'm a Democrat. And you just feel a certain way with the stare that's given at you. It's
Yeah.
just very, very unsettling. And my cousin who works at a bank, there was actually a Trump parade this week, and they had blocked the entrance to the bank. And it was a scary stuff for me because I wanted to make sure she made it safely into the bank. Where interestingly enough, when I was reflecting on it, I actually realized this is a lot of the fear that was shared by Trump Pence supporters about Black Lives Matter. It's like both sides, which is really odd. Both sides are looking at each other as like some violent, intimidating force. And I found that interesting.
It's just so funny though. I mean, like, if we're gonna talk about, you know, Black Lives Matter and then the pro-Trumpy people and Antifa and all this stuff, I think we need to just kind of get together and figure out a discussion of where we're going to head forward in this country. And I think that is what Joe Biden definitely wants to do. Can he accomplish it with a potential Republican controlled Senate? I don't know. It has yet to be determined. But, you know, the one thing they keep saying is that he can reach across the aisle. I think your friend Alicia is in the waiting room. So.
Oh, awesome. Let's let Allie in for sure. We'll introduce Allie,
Yeah.
joining us from Hong Kong, guys.
All right. Wow. We're international.
I know.
Hey.
Allie, yes.
Hi, how's it going?
Allie, what's going on? Allie, this is Shannon. Shannon, this is Allie, my dear friend who moved out to Hong Kong about 4 or 5 years ago.
Pleasure to meet you.
Kind enough.
Very nice to meet you.
America Left, Right, and Center.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, now it's America, Hong Kong, Left, Right, and Center, right?
Yeah. We've gone global.
We're already global.
Absolutely.
That's it. On the first day.
Allie actually wrote a really awesome op-ed piece that'll be going up on our website. But she was fortunate enough and gracious enough because she just woke up. You know, the time zone difference. It's 10 p.m. on the East Coast right now, and she's over in Hong Kong. It's 10 a.m. Right? So
it's 11 now.
Oh my gosh! All right, so it's actually a little bit 12 hours. Got it. So
I've been waiting to talk since 11 a.m. about the state of our country. So it's all good, you know.
Yeah.
So,
well, it was good to wake up to the news.
Agreed.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how it's been really quick on how you felt being in Hong Kong as a relocated American, and then what's news been like now?
Yeah, so I came at a pretty interesting time. It was right before the election. So I was able to watch the election results from here in Hong Kong. And I know that there was a profound sadness in the nation after Trump was elected. And that was kind of felt here too. Americans were kind of like, what's going on back home? And people, Hong Kong is a very multicultural place. So I have friends from all over the world, and they were just kind of like, what's going on over there? So it felt like the last 4 years has been a lot of explaining and kind of representing, but also at a distance because I'm not there. So I can only know what's going on through friends or the news. It's been a bit difficult. And then, of course, the election, I think towards the end, everyone kind of got election fatigue. It seemed very uncertain here. Nobody thought that Trump could win the first time. So it was a very sort of cautious optimism for this election as well.
All right, got you. Did you ever turn into like when people are asking you like, hey, what's going on in America? You're like, I don't know, I'm here now. Who cares? Or like, did it turn into like, it's pretty rough. I'm still embarrassed to raise my hand.
It was very embarrassing, like honestly, and that's sad to say because America, is known as a superpower. And it was also interesting when I'm speaking to people, hearing what America means to them. I had a friend who grew up in Belgium. He's Moroccan, but he grew up in Belgium, and he was telling me how when America had an election, their news would cover it as the leader of the free world has been chosen. Everyone was paying attention to it. So to see all eyes on us and me, kind of feeling like very embarrassed by it, that was difficult. There were definitely times where I said, I left, don't blame it on me. But it's not, the American identity is not really something that you can escape in a good way and in a bad way. So hopefully for the next 4 years, it'll be a little bit more easygoing. I can have a lot more pride.
Absolutely. Just really quick, I was sharing with Shannon, aside from everyone taking that sigh of relief when we heard the news here, I'm sure you've seen on social media, I know you're just waking up, but they're partying like it's 1999. Let me tell you, like the streets popping in every city right now. And
Every city, almost every state, except
what
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
What resonated with me was actually the mayor of France, which is Anne Hidalgo, who tweeted, "Welcome back, America," which I was like, that's as simple as it is so profound. Because it really has been, like you said, the leader of the free world has been chosen. And for the last 4 years, we've been like ducking and cringing because we're embarrassed, right? This is someone that has consistently spread falsehoods, always using divisive rhetoric. Like it really got bad for a while. So to have the mayor of France just be like, "Welcome back, America," I think that's the bravado that we're carrying with us today. We feel like we're back. Like I'm feeling proud to be an American.
Yeah, for sure. I think I did get a chance to look at social media, and I've never seen an election and the results celebrated so much in my lifetime, at least. And it's just such a stark contrast to what happened 4 years ago. And the celebration, I think people feel hope again. This is like the one thing in 2020, after everything that we've been through, they finally like gave us something. And I also woke up to a lot of messages from back home and even people here. One of my friends, she's Indonesian, and she wrote in our group chat, "Congratulations to Alicia and the American people." So I think that just generally all around, people are definitely feeling optimistic, a little bit lighter. And I just saw Biden's acceptance speech as well. And, it was kind of nice to hear an adult speak in full sentences and like actually be unifying and saying something that makes sense, as opposed to someone who's just cutting people down every time he opens his mouth. So just from that one speech alone, I think we can feel invigorated again. And you know what? Maybe Biden wasn't everyone's first choice, but anything's got to be better than Trump. So I think hopefully he'll do a good job and he can try to reunite the country after it's suffered for so long.
Yeah, here. I agree.
You hit the nail on the head. After Biden spoke, I told my mom, I was like, dude, that felt good. Like you didn't walk away from that speech like feeling like someone was torn down. My mom was like, yeah, he'd even mention the other guy. And I was just like, no, it goes back to what I've been sharing with people. I'm like, if I go to Mercedes-Benz to buy a car, I'm not going to sit with the salesman and have them tell me why I shouldn't buy a BMW and all the terrible things about BMW. I'm not here for that. I'm here for Mercedes that I'm here to buy. And that's exactly the mentality. Somewhere along the line with politics, you couldn't speak to a Republican without them ripping down the Democrats and vice versa. And it's just like, no, sell your wins, convince the American people why you're the stronger party and why they should be voting for you or even supporting your values. That should be part of your pitch, and that should be part of your narrative. It should not include why the other party is like terrible and demo rats. And like, I was hearing all this crazy stuff. Like, it was too much.
Yeah. And I think,
no.
Sorry, go
Go ahead.
No,
Please.
Shannon, you've been quiet, so don't let us chat. We're two girls. We're gonna keep
No,
talking.
I was just gonna say, I feel like both parties going forward have a lot of soul searching to do, and I think that, you know, yes, for all the, I don't know the word, I guess just the absenteeism of the Republican Party for Trumpism, you know, for how bad that was. The Democrats are no saints either, and I say that as a proud Democrat, proud, very leftist Democrat, that we really, everybody, I think the country really needs to just take a breath. Yeah, there's a sigh of relief amongst most of the country, but I'm the only one who's sitting there, in my opinion, and I'm just going, well, yes, this is a win, but we still have a lot of work to do as a country. We have a lot of work to do as a Democratic Party and as a Republican Party. We just really need to kind of just sit back and be like, what have we done? What have we become? Where are we going? You know? And
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, there's just like a lot. Like, you know, Republicans have become the party of Trump, and now without Trump, what are they, right? And the Democrats have kind of just been this like feckless, like, we're just very weak and dainty, and like we don't want to fight the wrong battles, and you know, we don't want to go. That's not
in that voice.
That's like a Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi thing. It's like, well, you know, this is where we are, and this is what they've done, and we expect them to honor their agreements of, you know, what they said when Merrick Garland and blah blah blah. No one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear that. People want to see you stand up for yourself, and I think that that's where my party needs to go. You know,
Shannon, I don't disagree at all. I like, to Allie's point, everyone just wanted that sigh of relief though. Like, can we just bask in that? Like, there is no one on this planet right now that is like not wondering where do we go from here and not seeing that we have a ton of work. Like, dude, it's still Joe.
Everybody's been telling me this all day. Everybody's been telling me this all day. Please, Shannon, take a breath. Take a breath. And I'm like, no, man, we got work to do. We gotta keep going. And
no, but like, that's what I'm gonna say. Like, we, at the end of the day, it's still the Biden-Harris ticket, which wasn't, in my opinion, a strong ticket to begin with.
Not from my party, no.
It wasn't. It really came down, and what I feel like several Americans can agree on is like, it was a vote against what Trump and his constituents stood for. Like, it wasn't like a, oh my God, like Biden and Harris are the better party. It's like, no, like, we're going to denounce what Trump is about and what he represents.
I mean, I don't think that was the right way to fight this fight, to be honest with you. And I think it shows, because 70 million people at the end of the day still voted for Trump and are very mobilized right now because, in Trump's opinion, he hasn't lost and he's not conceding. So there's all these people who are mobilized and just ready to tear shit up. And I
mean, they're still on social media definitely saying that they're not ready. They're like, it's still not over. And it's like,
to them, it's not.
Spectrum of like men, women, black, white, like they're all kind of like, Trump didn't, it's not over.
Right. I mean, because they're also believing
that's the scary part.
His propaganda that he's spewing, his baseless propaganda, where he's saying that there's election fraud. There's election fraud, and even other Republicans are kind of looking at him like, "What are you talking about? There ain't no election fraud. Everything's fine, bro." And no, and they're trying to figure out, you know, which one's going to talk to the baby. like Jared or Ivanka, who's going to go talk to the baby and tell the baby that it's okay. It's okay. We're just going to go home now. You know?
I mean, selfless like plug to Fox News, but I'm actually a little proud. Like, I haven't tuned into Fox in a really long time, and this week they were on it. Like, they were also one of the news networks that were ahead in the electoral college votes.
Oh yeah,
Everywhere.
no one's still
They
called Arizona yet.
continued, as Trump continued to spew his propaganda, they were actually like, these are baseless claims. There is no evidence. I was very surprised at the mature route that everyone took, outside of a few. I'm not even going to give them shine right now. But overall, like, I was thoroughly impressed by Fox News, because usually they're all over it and like, oh yeah, this is fraud. Like, not at all. It looked like they took the route of like separating themselves from
No,
Trump.
they could smell where the fart in the wind is going, and they follow it. You know what I mean? Like, they're not.
This is my first time seeing it, so it felt good.
No, I get it. They're not stupid. I mean, like, Fox News is one of the only people who covers the Democratic primaries so fairly that it spins my own head around backwards. Because I'm like, wow, these guys are covering the Democratic primary better than CNN, MSNBC, and any other news organization that isn't independent. They cover it very fairly. You know why? They don't care. They don't have a stake in the game. So they cover it very fairly, and they tell you what it is. But yeah, yes, I get it. Fox News, wow, pat on the back, good job. Finally, you're not spewing propaganda. Wonderful. But my little liberal leftist organizations, they spew a bunch of shit too. And I gotta say, it's people like us who are independent media who really look at things objectively. We're the future. And we're the ones who are going to keep this going forward honestly and fairly.
I think this is where I shared with you why I was a fan of Trump. It's just, he needed to break that mold, and it was a mold that needed to be broken and seen by our generation to show us that there is alternative routes that we can take. But now we saw where his route went. That's a no-go. But we can actually have our own routes that we can take. That doesn't necessarily mean it's been done before. And to your point, today was a historical day. But I do want to take a minute, like, Allie, I know we don't have you much longer. I want to make sure this time is value added. We can ask questions. You could share whatever you want to share just from being in Hong Kong. I love the perspective of the different nationalities that have reached out to you to be like, yo, this is huge for America. How's it been with you and your family being in America and you in Hong Kong? Like, has that created any rifts, or has it been like you've been removed from it?
It's interesting because, as you know, I grew up in a very, very, very Republican household. And I come from immigrant parents, but they're still very pro-Trump. So ever since Trump got elected, that's kind of when the rift started, because I was very outspoken against him. And we just don't talk about politics anymore. We can't. My parents are, to me, what a lot of Trump supporters are like, which is you can't really have a conversation with them. And I think what Trump has really done is when he's reached out to those people, he's made it very emotional. So you can't have a conversation. And that's actually, I mean, you guys touched on it too. There's still a lot of work to be done. And that's what I fear from Hong Kong is his base is still very mobilized. They still believe in him. They'll believe in his claims of fraud. And I just don't know how that'll play out going forward. I hope it's just, a very peaceful transition. And I hope that Biden can kind of hit the ground running to reunite us. But in the back of my mind, I mean, look, the last 4 years still happened and the rest of the world still saw it. And I think it kind of showed a side of America that people tried to ignore or hide. And, once the cat is out of the bag, you kind of just have to deal with that. So I'm interested to see how that all goes, works itself out going forward. Hopefully it does.
That is such a nail on the head, honestly. It really is. My biggest fear personally is that, yay, ding dong, the witch is dead. Everything's good again, guys. Oh, man, smoking Joe Biden. He won the election. Let's all go back to sleep.
No.
That's my fear. That's my fear, is that we're all going to go back to sleep. We're going to accept blindly whatever Congress and whatever the president does and whatever local, state, whatever representatives, because voter turnout's down, because there's no super candidate like an Obama or a Trump. And it's like, oh, okay, Sleepy Joe. So let's go to sleep as a nation. That's my fear. We need to stay awake, and we need to stay bipartisan and discuss what is the soul of our nation now.
I'd have to respectfully disagree on that. Call me an optimist. I do have a realist perspective as well, but I think that so many people have been shaken to their core, and I was scared crapless this year, just as like how close we saw our democracy slipping, that I feel that those that it truly rang in our heart and soul, like, we're not gonna let this slide anymore. And we, especially to my fellow millennials out there, Gen Zs, like, we have to not let this slide at all. I feel like a lot of people have been woken up. It takes a lot for us to continue to push forward. Yes, there'll be a moment of reprieve, because seriously, 2020 needs to come to an end. But I don't think it's just everybody gonna go back to sleep. There are just too many things, to Allie's point. There were just too many things that people are trying to cover up for so long that they came to the surface that it can't be forgotten or forgiven, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I really, to my cousin had mentioned this the other day. It was pertaining to something else, but it also pertains to this. It's like, we have to get into a space of leaning into conversations that are a bit uncomfortable, and then calling out people that are sharing and spreading the hate, and calling them out where they're going to feel uncomfortable again, spreading that kind of hate and racism. Like, it just has to be in that space as Americans. And I feel like the amount of people that are celebrating today have that same mentality of like, we do not want to go. It almost felt like we were back in the 1960s. Like, it was just, the sentiment was incredibly palpable. Like, it was just crazy. So like, I think that division is what is going to drive people to not
fall asleep at the wheel.
I wouldn't say sleep. Like, at the end of the day, Shannon, like, my family did not know everyone else on their ballot ticket. Like, there were people that were online that were like, it's not just the president. And we're like, no, ma'am, no, sir. Like, it's not. So we have a lot of work to do as a country to understand like the intricacies from a local. We always talk about micro fitting into macro. Like, there's a lot of work to be done. So for us that are up next in running the country, I think that this year, the past 4 years, has uncovered so much that needs to be done, that it's like those that are called to the challenge are rising to it and will carry it forward. It's my opinion.
Well, I hope you're right, because it's definitely necessary. We can't sink back to complacency. And I mean, I do believe that the younger generation is much better at being outspoken. I think that's how it usually does go anyway. And, you know, hopefully with social media, which I think has had such a negative impact on news and, you know, politics and what it's shown a light on, and allowing people to kind of just find others who think like them, instead of just having that diversity of thought around them. Hopefully with social media, we can kind of break that mold, and people can get together to make a change and agree that even though I don't agree with you, we want better for our country.
Absolutely. One more question for you, Allie, before we let you go. For you, just what do you feel, where do you feel the Republican Party should go from this moment on? And same question regarding the Democrats. In your opinion, where do you think they should be headed next?
Whew. I think it's tough. My problem with the parties is that they've become so radical. You know, I feel like they're trying to appeal to their base by going to complete left or complete right. And I don't think that most Americans are actually complete left or complete right. I think that Americans tend to feel certain ways about one issue, certain ways about another, but at the end, it's also kind of like they do want better for their country, and they just want better for themselves. So I think for the Republican Party, they need to come a bit more into the modern age, so that they can attract younger people and maintain its standing. I think the Democrats need to also kind of stop demonizing the Republicans. There was a time in politics where they would reach out across the aisle so that they can get things done. And they both need to stop painting the other side as so different and so as the villain. And without that, we're going to keep seeing this cycle of every 4 years, it's a different president, it's going to be a Democrat, it's going to be a Republican, and they're just going to roll back what the other guy did. And that's not progress. So I think that there's a lot of soul searching to be done within the American people and the parties themselves, and how we're going to be able to go forward and actually get things done and get back to that place where America was the best country in the world. Because I think right now, it's not so certain.
Mm-hmm. Great point. How about you, Shannon? Where do you feel each party should head?
I don't feel like the left really criticizes the right at all. If anything, if you watched the DNC, I don't know if you did, but if you did, all they could do was just praise Republicans and how we're the party, we're the middle of the road party, we're the party that reaches across the aisle, and I think that's the problem with my party. My party is so interested in like, let's be friends, let's do cool stuff, and all the right does when they have power is just smack the Democrats across the face. They're like, let's get all these justices in. Let's block you, Obama. Let's do all these things. And the Democrats are like, okay, well, if that's how you want to be, that's fine. And my party just kind of needs to have a little bit more fight in it and a little bit more gusto. And I think for the Republicans, I don't know what they're going to do. You know what I mean? They've just kind of rallied around Trump for the last 4 years and just like, well, whatever he says, whatever he's going to do, that's it. And by doing that, they've just become the party of Trump. And yet a lot of them won seats in re-elections and, and we've lost a few seats in the House. And this is just, kind of where it's at. I think that in middle America and a lot of states, Republicans are kind of just like, that's who we are. That's who we vote for. That's what we're going to do. So you're never going to get those votes. You're never going to get those votes as a Democrat. And there just will always be a Republican base no matter what. But if you really want to reach out to people just bipartisanly, you have to appeal to the working class because there's more of us than there is of them, and you have a built-in foundation as the Democratic Party if you start representing the working class and the lower middle income. You're going to have a built-in foundation, and then maybe, not saying definitely, but maybe you'll start to break through in some of those red wall states and the whole block of middle America that's red. Maybe you'll start breaking through. Reach out to the unions, reach out to the working class, and do what you need to do. But Republicans, I don't know, they're still winning. So I don't know. I don't know what their message is going to be going forward now that their supreme leader Trump has been ousted.
So for me, I think for the Democrats, it's time for them to deliver, right? I think they're synonymous with over promising and under delivering. When it comes election time, they run around really trying to galvanize and excite and engage and get these votes. And then when it comes time for office and really delivering on what's best for all Americans, like it just becomes like, it's just, for me, I just think it becomes like this whole, like, I don't even know how to articulate it really. It's just one of those things where they don't deliver at the capacity that they should be and what they run on and the allure that they give. They all the time around elections, they go around and have this like seductive rhetoric of why we should vote for them and why, and really appeal to minorities and do all that stuff. And it's just like, at the end of the day, to your point, Shannon, it's like there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And whether it's them having more of a backbone and really defining who they are as a party in 2020 or 2021, if you may, going forward, like it's time for them to do that. When it comes to the Republicans, my stance still stands at the foundation of they need to appeal to the youth more. It can no longer be the old white man's club because, hi, I'm a Republican, a proud Republican, and I'm not old, I'm not white, and I'm not a man. So it's like, I don't see a place for myself in this party. So they truly have to now work twice as hard because they went into the Trump era having this stigma. And now you're having Trump and all that he stood for. And mind you, when he was running for office, the Republicans were torn. They did not want Trump to be their fearless leader.
Oh, no, they didn't.
So they fought tooth and nail. So now he gets office and then you're blindly supporting him. Like, I feel for my party, a bit of a backbone is needed as well. So for me, what gave me a little bit of hope when watching the DNC was seeing the Republicans that were brave enough to come forward and be like, this man is not representing what our party stands for and who we are as people. So it gave people like myself like hope to be like, hey, I'm not the only one feeling like this man went far too left. And I mean, left not as in Democrat, but like went off script and literally needed prescription pills to like get his chemical balance handled. So like for the Republican Party, it just really has to really make space for the different kinds of Americans that are out there, because it's not the case. Because for me, I always stood behind what we stood for, the fundamental values. It's all, for me, it's a great package that needs updating. And we haven't had that conversation or begin to even entertain that conversation. I feel like it's just the party of the old, and it needs to lose that and shed that skin.
But that party is winning, right? I mean,
party's winning because let me tell you, Shannon,
Lindsey Graham got reelected. Susan
Mitch
Collins got
McConnell,
reelected.
I know.
Mitch McConnell. I mean, Mitch McConnell. Come on, he was laughing at his debate. He was always winning. You know what I mean? Like he's.
but like we always shared, Shannon, it's because my party, it's always chess, not checkers. The day the Democrats stop playing checkers and wisen up and realize that they have to be making decisions that are 2, 3, 10 steps ahead, then we too can be winners while being low-key losers. Like,
I mean, but you know, in the middle of this pandemic and in the middle of George Floyd, you had Amy McGrath. You know, they were like, okay, well, what's going on with you? Are you Black Lives Matter? Or are you like, what's going on? And she was like, no comment, and then ran away because she's like, I don't know what Kentucky wants. I don't know. You gotta just know what you believe in your heart, run on that, and if it loses, at least you lost for 100% of who you are rather than 100% of who you aren't. Whether you believe these things, you know, whether you believe Kentucky wants these things or whether you believe you want those things, that's what is important. Run on yourself, be true to yourself, and then maybe you'll start winning elections, you know?
But I'll give you this last point before we let Allie go, because Allie, I don't know how much time you have. You're in Hong Kong. You hopped on this call because you're doing your friend a favor. But to your point, Shannon, that's where I really put the faith in our generation, the future generations, because we're the generations that, it may be social media or not, like, we only like truth. So the problem is, hold on a second, I just got a alert. Did you guys get an alert on your laptop? It was saying something that this might be updating. I'm sorry.
No.
We're the generation of truth. Like, don't sell us like smoke and mirrors. Like, I always reference the fact that millennials in particular, high divorce rates. We have two parties that sound like two parents that are arguing. You know, don't pretend you like each other, and kindly ask to pass the butter at the dinner table when in actuality we just heard you ripping each other's heads off in the bedroom. Like, it's just, don't do that to us.
That's
like
fair.
That's not gonna fly. So to your point, you are right. Like, we are going to demand that accountability is going, I have faith in our generation and future generation is going to be a lot much higher than we've seen in previous decades, because we're not with the shits. Like, we literally are going to be telling people, like, don't lie to us. And that's why so many people, I know not 70 million, but so many people were just like, yo, Trump is lying to us. This is a hot, holy mess. Like, get us out of here, please. Waiter.
Yeah, 74 million people wanted to get out, and 70 million were just like, you know what, he's fun. And I believe that. I believe that from the bottom of my heart, that these people are like, hey, man, he's just having fun up there. And you know what? Both parties screwed us. So let's go with him. He's having a ball. Let's go. It's fun. I like to hear him talk. He talks shit. It's great. You know?
I'm just running the numbers really quick. That left roughly 185 million votes.
That's more than any election in history.
No. I'm just saying that's what's left. So we had like about, because there's 330 million Americans.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's what I'm sharing. So of those that participated, you had 73 and 70, okay, whatever. But what was people that didn't vote? 187 million. So there's more work that can be done in the country. So that'll happen, but I'm not sure.
Well, here's the thing. You know, the Republican agenda, they do not want everybody to vote. They do not want everybody to vote. It is a fact. If anybody disagrees with me, please, there's two of you. Go ahead, disagree with me that the Republican agenda, please, if you.
Oh, no, I agree.
Yeah, okay.
I agree with you.
So we agree that it is a fact that the Republican agenda does not want people to vote, right? So what happens if Republicans got behind voting, right? What happens to that party? You know what I mean? Does it fail? Does it go crash and boom in the dust? You know, or does it become the minority party? Like, you know, tell me what you guys think.
Nah, I think that it depends on how, because I spoke about it being like the older party, like I feel like if we gave it a good update and really sold why we tend to lean to the right, myself, Allie, like it can be sold in a way that will be marketable and can win against the younger crowd. Like I know, especially those that after graduating college kind of swung the pendulum right because it made sense to them, not just from the fiscal responsibility aspect, just everything lifestyle wise fit better. But the Republicans spend no time trying to market it. To your point, whether it's them, to me, I don't think it's like them not wanting people to vote. I just think like they're just stuck in their ways. It's just what it is.
I think they're going to lose a lot of power if they start giving incentivized reasons to vote. Like let's say, for hypothetically in the future, that you know there's a bill on the desk of Congress, and they say, okay, well we want to make Election Day a national holiday, right? That's kind of an easy throwaway. That's just one thing, right? Mitch McConnell is like, no, that's a power grab. I'm not doing that. That's never going to make it to the Senate floor. I'm the Grim Reaper of that bill, okay? But you guys probably feel like voting is good. You know, it's democratic. Let's get out there. And why does that help? Because then you actually have a basis for argument going forward, and it's not just about cheesy, cheap power grab type of situation where you're like, no, I don't want to make Election Day a national holiday because I don't want these people to vote. No, it's like, well, now you got to actually run for your seat. Now you actually got to compete against this Democrat or whoever, you know, Libertarian, Green Party, whatever. You got to actually make your case. And this is why it's important for democracy. It's like, okay, let's incentivize voting for people. Let's get them out there. Let's get the real arguments going and stop playing these cheesy games, you know, where it's like gerrymandering maps and, you know, using cheap Supreme Court tactics, which Trump wants to maybe do for this election cycle. It's not about that for me. For me, it's like, make your case. And if you're a really good Republican and you really got some good arguments and a good direction for this country, it's not like we wouldn't vote for you. But I mean, you know, what has the Republican Party churned out over the last 20 years? George W. Bush, the dumbest president in history, and then Donald Trump, the even most dumber president in history, you know? I mean, give me something to get behind.
And to your point, we're still winning. Like, what is?
I don't know. You're right.
All right. So, Allie, closing statements, and then we'll let you hop off.
Nothing. I mean, I think I told you this morning, I still don't really know exactly how to feel about the results because I do think there's a lot of work to be done. And I'm just hopeful and optimistic that with 2021, we can get back on the right track and people will be kinder to each other and listen to each other. And there won't have that same anxiety of the last 4 years. That's all I can hope for.
All right, cool. I can't thank you enough for joining us from Hong Kong. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You guys have a
Absolutely.
good night.
All right, enjoy your day. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Peace. All right. So you and I are here.
Absolutely.
Incentivizing voting. That's the last thing we said, right? How do you feel
Yes.
about that?
I'm in favor of it. You have to understand, I'm coming from a perspective where I feel like my party needs a complete recalibration. And I look forward to representing that. Like, I'm not, to your point, like, I'm not here, and I'm very happy that we have the platform that we do. That's why I was very passionate about having my own platform, because I'm not here to cater to anyone else's agenda. Like, I'm here to be Vanessa Simon and believe in what I believe what's right for us as Americans, and represent that. Like, I feel like the example that you gave about Kentucky, like, too many politicians are feeling that pressure, and they're like, what do people, and they're just not leading from a space of like, how do you inclusively bring along everyone? Because they're just like, they don't want to say the wrong thing so that the people backing them and the donors, and it's just like, oh, I'd rather 1,000% as myself.
Exactly. Run 1,000% as yourself, and if you lose, you 1,000% lost as yourself and not a fake person. And I think that was Amy McGrath's problem. She debated him well. But no matter what, there was like an air of disingenuousness probably to the Kentuckian. Maybe that's why she didn't vote for him. And a lot of people say Mitch McConnell represents Kentucky first when he represents in the Senate, and then he represents the rest after that. So I guess there is a truth to that, and maybe it's something that only Kentuckians know and we don't. Not going to talk about that. What I am going to talk about, though, is let's talk about incentivized voting going forward, okay? You said there was a lot of people who were left out. What if we said at the end of the year or something like that, if you go vote and it's on your record that you voted, you get like a tax credit or something like that towards your taxes? Is that something that you would be opposed to? Or is that something that's like too, like it's too much, you should want to do it as your civic duty?
No, I think that if we're in the current state as Americans, where if it was just for civic duty, we wouldn't have 187 million votes still on the table. Like, let's accept it for what it is, the facts, right? So incentivizing, absolutely. I think it'd be great. Anyone, any company, because remember, I always run that parallel to how a company would run versus how America would run. Any company that's trying to drive a metric or improve performance always incentivize something. And that's
grease the wheel and make it turn. Yeah.
That's just what it is. So for me, it's a no-brainer. I don't know if I'd go as far as a tax break. I mean, that would have like probably 100% participation.
That would be amazing if we could do that.
But
that's
like,
worth it then, right? Because
at least something.
We're getting the country to move in the direction that we want it to move in.
But at least something, because at the end of the day, 187 million votes are a lot. That's a lot. That's more than the half that voted. Like,
yeah.
So, like, for me, it's like, who are those people and why didn't they vote?
Well, some of those people, if you look to Nevada, they needed them to cure their ballots because there was a discrepancy. So there was a line about a mile long outside of the voting center. And CNN was talking about how one woman had to leave because she couldn't wait any longer and she had to go to work. There's a lot of people out there who have to work. So if we made Election Day a federal holiday, you're probably going to see a surge in voter turnout.
So what I mean? For me, just to your point,
especially this year, everybody
before we entertain, to your point, before we entertain incentivized voting, for me, it's like, let's fix the foundation before doing that, because there's far too much voter suppression. And I forgot, I'd be remiss if during this first taping, I didn't shout out Stacey Abrams. What she did in Georgia, the Democrats should take as a chess move. That shit was powerful.
Yeah.
She lost her gubernatorial race in 2018 And instead of keeping it all about Stacey and running for the Senate, which she was heavily criticized for not running for the Senate instead. They were calling her a sore loser and calling her selfish because she chose not to run again. But in actuality, it's chess, baby. It's all he realized that the reason why her election was stolen was because the foundation was broken. So she's going to take a back seat, work on fixing the foundation. And then this is why Georgia turned blue this year. That was, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, any political analyst, any human being could see that power move and be like, dude, that was ingenious. They didn't see it coming. And then that also set the stage for having Kamala, a woman of color, being our first woman VP. It was, she made sure that no one else experienced what she was going to experience and then continued to set the stage for the future. It was genius, bro.
I mean, it's to the point where there are 2 Senate seats now. I thought it was just 1. I thought it was the Georgia special that was going potentially, you know, but it's 2.
Yeah, and we need that. So
I mean, I cannot believe that. Yeah, we need balance in the Senate. We need to actually make discussions with each other. You know, we need to actually figure out what's going to make this country go forward. We got coronavirus still ravaging this population, and to think that maybe we'll have some competent leadership in the White House where we can actually drive this country with a national plan of like, this is how we want to discuss things going forward. You know what I mean? You can either be on board with this national plan or you cannot, and watch your you know, your state go up in coronavirus. You know what I mean? Like, the mask works. Why did it have to be a political issue? I don't understand that. You know, 250,000 plus are dead. And, you know, I would say half of them are probably Trump votes. He could have probably used those votes this year.
Zing.
You know, and I'm not trying to make light of it. I'm not. I'm really not. You know, my heart goes out to everybody who's passed away in this messed up situation, you know?
Absolutely.
But I really want this country to move in the right direction. And yes, if it is a more conservative one that helps out fiscal conservatism and saving money, I am all for that. But I'm not for that at the expense of our American brothers and sisters who are dying because they don't have health care, because they don't have food to feed their families. And this virus has shut down a lot of us, including myself. I cannot work. A lot of people cannot work in their professions, in their industries, because we don't have a leader who has decided to try to take this first and then try to heal and make it go away a little bit even, which would have opened the door for some professions and industries again, you know?
Absolutely. So to your point, I think we covered a lot of ground tonight. We definitely should hop on another time during the week. But I think we did well tonight.
Yeah, the discussion will continue.
Oh, it has to.
Left, right, and center. We have a lot of work to do, and we have a lot of discussions to be had. But right now, it is a historical night. It is a night for celebration for all of America, I feel, and I think you agree.
Absolutely.
And now we'll see where it goes from here, because I'm not going to sleep and let my party just, you know, kind of be the mediocre party who's like, you know, we're for the people, but we're not for the people because we love corporate donor money. No. Those days are over.
Good call, Shannon.
Those days are over.
Those Democrats really love their corporate donor money.
No, it doesn't win elections. Look at what happened with Lindsey Graham. You know what I mean? That he outraised Lindsey Graham like by $50 million or something crazy. Lindsey Graham was on television violating the Hatch Act during the Amy Coney Barrett hearings. I don't know. Money in politics, who knew? No, you knew all along, which is why you passed Citizens United. But that is another subject for another day. Let's end it on a good note. Joe Biden wins. I think we all win as a country.
Welcome back, America. Feels good. Feels good to be back.
Tune in next time.
Thanks, Allie.
All right, I'm going to stop.